Welcome to Beyond the White Coat, a 30-minute podcast where we explore the stories, perspectives, and paths that shape physicians beyond their clinical titles. I'm your host, Dr. Zwade Marshall, an anesthesiologist, entrepreneur, and CEO of Doc to Doc Lending. Today's episode is especially meaningful for me because I'm genuinely a fan of our guest. Dr. Eva Bonsu is an exceptional physician leader. She's an author and a content creator who's built a powerful voice around wellness, identity, and representation in medicine. Through her work, she challenges traditional narratives, elevates gender and ethnic diversity, and reminds us that empathy and lived experience are essential to delivering care, especially in underserved communities. Eva, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Of course, it's my pleasure. So I'm really curious before we kind of delve in to hear about the early origin story of Dr. Blunt. So I know that you're multilingual. Both of your parents were physicians, and you've got an immigrant experience like I do. So please do share more about little girl Eva and who she was before she became the extraordinary doctor that you are now.
Well, I don't know if a lot of your listeners know, but I'm from Haiti. I grew up there. I was born there and grew up there and moved to the US when I was 15. But before moving, I had both parents that were doctors. My mother was a dermatologist. My father was a radiologist, interventional radiologist. And they both had their own practices. And so I got to see early on my mom and my dad living their passion and doing what they do best to help people, and at the same time running their own businesses. So they were entrepreneur as well. They had payroll, they had employees, they had their patients. So they were doing all the stuff that, we do now. So I saw them do this when I was younger. My mom used to take me to work with her sometimes. So did my father. So as long as I could remember, I wanted to be a doctor. When you're growing up, your parents are your heroes. So I wanted to be like my mom and my dad. So I never really imagined myself being anything else but a doctor. And then moved to the US at the age of 15 unexpectedly. That's a different story for later. Started high school, finished my education here, and here I am now. A few years later, I'm a hospitalist. I'm married to another physician. We have two urgent care practices. We have three kids, and a whole lot of things happen in between.
Okay, so that's brilliant, and I'm not surprised to hear that you come from the entrepreneur stock. That both of your parents, you've seen them. You grew up in a space where you had professional parents who did the thing that you're doing now. What was that like, and how do you view medicine today for your own kids, with the three kids that you have, and them admiring and looking at what you do? Do you recommend it for them?
Oh, that's such a multi-layered question. Um, you know, we're from the Caribbean, right? And a lot of our parents actually chose our careers for us. Like they tell you what you're gonna do. They'll give you like a short list of options. You could be
Doctor,
a
lawyer,
doctor,
engineer.
a
That's it.
lawyer, a nurse, or an engineer. Okay.
Yeah,
You can pick between these four.
sure.
So you grow up like just knowing that these are the options you have. And that's for most of us. I don't really want to do this to my kids, but at the same time, I do want to have influence on them to help them pursue their passion. But I think that our kids are super blessed to see two doctors in a household, which a lot of kids, especially kids of color, don't see. So I would hope that they're encouraged and inspired by us because they see us, being doctors, taking care of our patients, and at the same time, they see us running businesses too. So hopefully that inspires them to be somewhat like us.
Sure. So I think there's so much similarity in how you describe your journey to my own. I was born and raised in Guyana, moved here when I was 17, so 2 years older than you, and had that both parents were entrepreneurs as well, not in medicine, but I had no alternative option of a career that I can enter. I was an asthmatic kid, and my mom said, "You're going to be a doctor," and that was kind of the story for me. Um, about a quarter of all American doctors are foreign trained or foreign born today. And so there's a huge kind of immigrant journey that's a part of what the ecosystem of doc to doc is. And I know that your story transcends just being an immigrant, but you're also, a Black woman in medicine, and you have a number of different platforms that you elevate for the folks that may feel invisible, and you give them visibility. Tell me more about what inspired your advocacy for the unseen. What stories shaped how you storytell today?
Well, with I always say my story is different only because I have so many doctors in my family. My mom's brother is an interventional cardiologist. My father's father, my grandfather was a radiologist. So was my uncle, who's my dad's brother. And then many others. My godfather is a surgeon. His wife is an anesthesiologist. My mom's first cousin is a surgeon. So I have so many doctors in my family. So for me, it wasn't something that was impossible to even think about myself being one, right? And that's not the case for a lot of kids nowadays. So when I went through residency, it wasn't many
Where?
doctors. Well, I did my residency in Macon, Georgia, in internal
Hmm.
medicine. And
Hmm.
looking around in the room, it wasn't many people that looked like me. And so the things that I had to go through that I thought at the time were normal, I didn't really start realizing that those were not normal until I finished residency and went into the real world and started working as a doctor on my own, being an attending, and just doing life on my own. So I started my social media journey as a way to just inspire myself. A lot of people
Hmm.
write in journals and they go back and read it. I was just putting things out there on social media I thought would be positive, inspiring, that I could just go back and remind myself of. But in doing so, I got a lot of responses from people saying, "Oh, wow, you're inspiring me too." And so I was like, well, maybe this could go somewhere. So I wanted to show the journey, the positivity, the struggles that I was going through being a woman of color in medicine, trying to, raise kids and at the same time continuing to honor my identity and who I am and not get buried into all of that.
Sure.
And so doing all of that is what really got me here today, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes a lot of sense. And it resonates. How do you manage that quiet pressure to assimilate versus the freedom to be the individual that you are? Did you always have that flair to kind of be your authentic self, or was there ever a time where you felt like an imposter within these majority environments where you feel alone and not belonging?
I think at the beginning of my journey, I felt like that because leaving residency, being me, and still as an attending, not having that many people that look like me in my environment, it kind of intimidates you in a way.
Hmm.
But the further along I got into it and the more social media I was doing, the more I realized that it was a lot of people's journey and a lot of people's story was the same, especially those that look like me, right? So that kind of inspired me to even show more. And it gave me a little bit more confidence, which is, I don't know if it makes sense, but it gave me more confidence to know that I was where I was supposed to be and that it was up to me to show the world that just being a doctor in medicine doesn't mean that you have to give up your personal life, but you have to give up your dreams and aspiration of doing other things because you're in medicine. There is a misconception out there. Like if you ask anyone, especially young kids, what does a doctor look like? The first thing they're going to tell you is a white older male, right? And so there's a misconception that if you go into medicine, be ready to give up so much. And it's absolutely not true.
Sure. I think about 8 years ago, we started to graduate our first cohort of medical graduates that were predominantly female. So the generation of doctors entering the workforce now it's overwhelmingly female compared to male, as in the past centuries of doctors. So that's a very interesting and positive change for what medicine and doctors look like going forward.
And they do say if your doctor's a woman, especially a surgeon, you probably have better outcomes.
There you go. There you go.
Yes.
Now, showcasing all of your unique talents and your individuality on a social media platform is a very vulnerable thing to do because you're exposing yourself to the criticism for those who don't think the same or look the same. And people, you say Twitter fingers, right? Folks are emboldened to be sometimes their worst selves as they're responding to folks online. How did you navigate being vulnerable and honest? Inspiring folks that would hear the message and receive it the way you intended, compared to the folks that just didn't get it. Were there any times where you questioned the impact you can have in social media on these very weighty themes of diversity, equality, access, and impact within healthcare, as huge as it is, and as challenging as the landscape can be?
I think that's the environment that we live in. There's always gonna be people that will support you, and there's always gonna be the haters, right? So I don't let any negativity affect me. It really doesn't. You really have to have tough skin, and you have to know what your purpose is and what your mission is. No one can derail me. I know who I am. I know whose I am, and I know what my mission is, and I know what I do every day on a daily basis. So the negative comments or anything that's not positive that somebody else has to say really doesn't affect what I have to do or what I do on a day-to-day basis. And as a matter of fact, the majority of the response that I get is positive. So I do want to look at it as a positive thing. I know social media can have a lot of negative, but I think it has more positive than negative.
Fear. So I want to take a step back to your actual career arc, because many of our audience members always ask for the specific stories that led to you becoming you, right? So they want to get more detail. Tell me more about when you were navigating leaving your residency and getting into your first job, what that decision matrix looked like, how you decided where to be, and then the journey to become an entrepreneur outside of being an employed physician. Say more
Wow.
about that bit.
Wow, yeah. I mean, I met my husband when I was, well, we got married when I was in residency. And I ended up getting pregnant my last year of residency. So that kind of changed my trajectory because I went into internal medicine wanting to be a gastroenterologist. That was my
Mm.
goal. And then I quickly realized that I didn't mind being a hospitalist. I don't mind internal medicine. I like that too. And so after meeting him and getting pregnant, I said, "You know what? I'm just gonna pause. I'm gonna become a hospitalist for now and focus on the pregnancy and my first child," which is what I did. And it
How
was
did you guys navigate marriage, first kid, you in residency? Was he in training as well? How did the dynamic of child rearing and that phase of life building in medicine work out for you both?
so I had my first child after I finished residency, just a couple months after I finished residency. He
Okay.
was already an attending. He had been working for a few years prior to myself, but it was
Okay.
super challenging. I honestly did not know what I was getting myself into. 'Cause I was always this optimistic person, always looking at the bright side of things, and then the baby came, and then he's in the ER, and then I'm in the hospital. We don't have any family in town. So you
Mhm.
can imagine juggling the weekends, the holidays, the nights, the in between shifts, mid shifts, like, it was super, super challenging. And so at some point, I left hospital medicine to open up my own practice, and then realized outpatient medicine was not for me. I hated it. Went back to hospital medicine.
Wait a second. What what inspired you to leave the hospitalist medicine job to start your own? Because here's, I need to hear a lot more about this. Many of our customers come to us because they're contemplating leaving employed medicine to open their own. Like it's there's now a wave of physician empowerment, and the employed roles in our ecosystem feel to many like it's just the opposite of physician autonomy. So there's a glorification of owning your own. And I said in the last episode I did with my co-founder that there's not enough being said about how challenging being self-employed and running your own practice can be, and some of the protection of being an employed doctor that's earning good income with a stable schedule. Like, we undervalue some of the positives of that environment. So tell me more about what made you decide to leave, and then what made you go back.
Um, Work-life balance. I was just trying to figure it out. I was trying to figure out this motherhood, working woman type because I love working. I didn't want to not work. But then at the same time, it was just really hard to juggle the two. So I thought maybe having my own practice would be best. And it's not
Sure.
that it wasn't, it's just that I did not like outpatient medicine. Period. I
What
prefer
about it you didn't like? What was
patient.
the part that you didn't like?
The Monday to Friday, um, the fact that there was so much paperwork, you know,
Admin, the headaches.
um, the
Was
way
it a
The schedule
Was it
was
an
so tight.
insurance based or
Yeah,
cash based?
insurance based. It
Sure,
was so tight, so you have the patients coming to you, my phone could be ringing, I can't answer because I have somebody in front of me. It was just a different dynamics. So
sure,
I left and went back to hospital medicine. Now, being a hospitalist, I liked it. I love the hospital setting. But at the same time, it was becoming challenging because when you work full time for an entity, you know, um, the security that you have is that you get a check every other week, but there's no such thing as really 100% job security because they can get rid of you anytime. But you
sure.
do have a check that comes in every other week, right? But I didn't like the fact that they were handing me my schedule and telling me this is when you're gonna show up. Whether it's a holiday, a weekend, your birthday, your kid's birthday, my anniversary, it doesn't matter. This is your schedule, and that's when you're gonna show up. I also did not like that aspect, but I had to do it for the time being. So then my husband decided it was his turn to try and open up his own practice because he was getting tired of the same thing. High burnout in the emergency room, them giving you your schedule. You have no say over anything. If you needed a date off because it happened to be your birthday or somebody's wedding that you needed to go to, then you have to find somebody to cover you and you have to pay them back by working for them. It was just struggles after struggles. So he left the ER and opened up his first urgent care. It took about 5 years for it to become so good to the point where he was able to leave the emergency room and work in his own facility full time. Because what he was doing was hiring different people, doctors, nurse practitioners to work. He was working in the ER to fund it. So then he left, went to the urgent care, was doing great, still doing good, opened up his second urgent care. And he's been
Mm,
doing that for the last 15 years on his own. And you're right, there are challenges with having your own practice versus working in a hospital setting. But the positive outweighs the negative for
mhm.
sure.
So there are a couple of things that I want to emphasize that you just shared for our viewing audience. The first is that lack or loss of autonomy by just having someone dictate where you would be, how often you'd be there, and the days. And because medicine is a 24/7 career, that there are times when you're going to be asked to go on call and to be in the hospital at times when life events that are meaningful to you and your family happen, and burnout becomes so much more acute when you feel like you have no control after spending 14, 15 years training for this career that we glorified all through training. And then you're finally here and you still don't have control over your schedule.
Right.
I think your husband's method is one that we recommend. It's the starting your medical entity while you continue to work in medicine. That way you're not having to borrow without having some cash flow to support the business. And because for many of us, medicine can generate good income, it can help to subsidize and offset the expenses of a new venture. And you can gradually kind of move in and transition fully over when you can fully replace your income at that employed position. So I think it was wise, and it's not surprising that after showing success with one location, expanding to the second or third becomes a lot easier
Right.
once you've had that baseline of revenues coming in. You've
Right.
got a dual primary household, so both of you are high powered physicians. Many of our listening audiences are maybe physician, attorney, physician, nurse, folks that are struggling with the balance of life and kids
Hmm.
and having there's no spouse that's the one that can be on call for the school, for the pickup, for the drop off. How do you navigate that with your hubby?
Okay, so because the hospital I was working at was literally down the street from the kids' school, and that was strategic. I picked a school that was very, or I decided my kids were going to go to school close to where I worked. And being a hospitalist, being down the street meant that if the school called me for anything, I could just go real quick and get them or, see what's going
Sure.
on. Yeah. And so that kind of gave me a little bit of peace of mind knowing that I could do that as a hospital medicine doctor because him being in the emergency room hours away, with Atlanta traffic, it wasn't possible. In the ER, you can't even leave. At
Sure.
least as a hospitalist, I could leave sometimes if I told my colleague, "Hey, I gotta go check on the kids. I'll be right back." You know what I mean? But you can't really
Understood.
do that in the emergency room. So That's what I did for a little while.
Got it. So you're still doing the traditional second and third shift of most moms. You're the professional, and you're the pressure release valve for the family should the school call in time of an emergency.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it falls on me. So I did that for a while. When he left the emergency room to be full time in the urgent care, it made things so much better in our household because he was no longer working weekends and he was no longer doing nights and holidays. If he had to go in on a Saturday, it was because somebody else called out and it was last minute. But that only happened every once in a while. So childcare became a lot easier because the kids were home with their dad on the weekend. Eventually, the 7 on, 7 off, 7 on, 7 off was taking a toll on me. Again, them telling me when to show up, how to show up, I didn't like that. And sometimes it was my kids' birthdays and I couldn't find anyone to cover for me. I just hated having someone putting shackles on me, telling me how to show up, when to show up, what to do. I didn't like that.
I don't know what's worse than being in the hospital when you know that your family is somewhere else doing something that's important to the family, and you're there looking at your phone, getting the texts, the pictures, the videos, and you're not there. Like I don't know a worse feeling of FOMO
Right.
than when I've been in the hospital and that was happening to me.
Right, and it's not fair. That's how I felt. So eventually I decided in December of 2024, actually, that I was done with that and I was just going to do locums. And so that's what I've been doing for what I'm going on year 2 now of just doing locums, which gives me a little bit of autonomy over my schedule, actually a lot, because I get to pick and choose the shifts that I'm going to work. My kids have spring break in April. I already know I'm not working, because I get to say I'm not working on those days. I don't have to work a Christmas ever if I don't want to. So these are somehow how I'm trying to navigate, motherhood, working full time and trying to do everything else that I like to do.
Absolutely. So tell us more about that locums gig. Do you have an LLC that you created where the locums company pays the LLC, or are you locuming as Dr. Eva Bonsu directly?
I have an LLC because even while I was working full time for the hospital, I still had my business on the side. You know how they always say you work your 9 to 5 and then you work on your passion on the side so that when your passion.
They don't always say it. When you're Caribbean, they say it. And maybe you've come a couple other cultures, they say that. But
Yes,
I know
yes.
exactly what you mean.
Yeah, you build your passion on the side slowly, kind of like what my husband did, right? And then
Yes.
eventually you can transition. This is what I was doing all this time. So I always had my business, my LLC. So when it was time to transition to locums, which they don't teach us about locums. When you're in residency in medical school, you don't know what locums is. You don't understand that lifestyle and the way things work. So it can intimidate a lot of doctors because they feel that the security is not there, but to be honest, security is not even in a full-time job either, right? So to answer your question, I have the business. So they don't pay me, they pay my business. And then my business pays me.
Got it. So then you're doing 1099s or K1s. How does your end of year tax statement look?
Well, because this is my second year going into it, I had to hire an accountant who actually works with doctors that do the same. And this is what I did. So he's been guiding me through how to pay the taxes quarterly and how to do the paperwork. So he's been doing all of that for me. And that's very
Excellent.
important. You need to have somebody to help you do all of that so that, at the end of the year, you're not like, oh my God, what did I just do to myself?
I think so many of us as doctors are cynical of other professionals and think of them as trying to take more money out of our pockets, as opposed to being subject matter experts that can help you unburden from a part of your practice life that we're not equipped and trained to do, like accounting. And so I can't emphasize enough how important it is for anyone listening who's thinking of doing locums, and many of our audience members are, because it's a nice way to bridge going from the employed world to self-employment on your own terms while having the structure of a schedule that pays you well, and oftentimes locums payments are higher than the daily rate for if you were employed as well. So you can really supplement income that way. But the advantages, as you mentioned, are you have your own LLC, so you're able to expense a lot of the costs associated with work and life. So lease payments on your cars you're driving to those locum centers. If you're flying to a location, those hotel rooms and flights are all tax deductible. The clothing that you buy, the gas that you pay for, the time you spend in your home office, the square footage as a part of your larger square footage of your home is tax deductible. And so there's so many benefits of doing it the right way when you have smart professionals helping you to arrange the infrastructure around being a business owner and an LLC.
But the freedom that it gave me is I don't even have words to put into it. Just knowing that now I have control over my life, I don't think I felt that way in a very, very long time. So it's
Fair.
definitely worth it for me.
So, on your social media, I see travel to the Caribbean. I see you traveling to Africa. I know you've got ties to Ghana as well. Tell me a little bit more about your travel passion and how that fills your cup, and what are you doing to have an impact in the stories you share from traveling in the diaspora.
Yeah, I think that as doctors, we are trained to chase a checklist of items, and we forget about what truly matters to us and what makes us truly happy. To the point where, like, you're checking checklist after checklist, and at the end of the checklist, you're like, "Okay, I've done everything right. Now what? I'm still not fulfilled. I'm still not happy." And I think a lot of us still don't know what truly makes us happy because 'cause it's been one thing after another after another. The training is gruesome, and it's back to back to back, that I'm glad that I was able to take the time to figure out what it is that makes me happy, and I quickly realized that it was traveling. Traveling is what helps me peel the layers off. I feel like when I'm going away, and the further away I go, the better it is for me because I feel like I'm leaving so much behind and I can relax and come back being a better mother, a better doctor, a better person.
So this is solo travel sometimes.
Solo travel, I've done that too, but most of the
Okay.
time, me and my husband go together because we connect. He loves traveling too. We explore the world and we're leaving the stress behind. We don't talk about business. We don't talk about medicine. We just have a good time and we come back and we're like, okay, time to do it again. So that's really how the travel thing started. So it's a non negotiable for us. We're going to travel as part of the budget that we have to have in order to stay sane in this environment. And I do have ties to Ghana because he is from Ghana. And I feel like Ghana is so similar to Haiti. It reminds me so much of my home country. And since I can't really go back home as much as I want to right now because of the political situation, and my husband's from Ghana, we go to Ghana all the time. And so that's how my real estate and everything else started in Ghana.
Sure. So it's funny. I my family and I went to Ghana for the Christmas holidays for the first time. We went to continental West Africa, and it began because, like you, my wife and I, and our my dynamic is that travel is my happy place. Like I anywhere but home, right? I love home, but I want to go somewhere for a break every now and then. And we do the whole solo travel. I go somewhere by myself. At least once a year, we do a couples retreat where we go together somewhere about 2 to 3 times a year, and then we do family trips as well. This trip to Africa for us was a Christmas present that had come to fruition because in 2024 we did a 23andMe for my family and my in-laws, and turns out that being from Guyana, we were 58% Ghanaian and like 32% Nigerian. And so my Christmas present that year to the fam was to spend Christmas in 2025 in Ghana. And, the whole like being a doctor thing, the struggles through residency and fellowship, a big part of our platform is financial literacy and getting away from financial shame about credit profiles and debt. There's a time when you're going to make enough money to buy your family members nice Christmas presents. And I'd found that over the years, gifting them gifts and stuff didn't feel as good for me as like experiences. And so we took this trip last Christmas, and Eva, it was a bucket list trip. I had my mom was there and my father-in-law. my brother-in-law and my sister, my wife and kids, and then one of our friends took his family as well, and they've got kids our kids' ages also. So to see Africa through the lens of three generations, knowing that we had cultural roots to Ghana as well. And like you, Ghana felt like Guyana to me. Like seeing it, it looked so familiar, you know? And even the historical tours to the slave ports and the point of no return, there was something that felt eerily familiar
Yep.
there as well.
Yep.
Like it was in my like my spirit knew the
Yep.
place.
Yep.
Um,
And the
and
people are
so
so welcoming. The culture is amazing. It's a safe place. It just checks all the boxes for me. I just and it does something to your soul. Like, it does something to you to where you wanna know more, you wanna learn more, and now you wanna go visit more countries in Africa.
absolutely,
You're never gonna go
absolutely.
back to Europe. Now all your trips are gonna be on that continent.
Yeah, absolutely. There's such a rich history there, right? Like we did beach and nice hotels, white sand and blue water beaches. We did cultural explorations. We did food and party. Like you have the full diversity of experiences there, and it's not just the Africa that you see on TV and the media, you know? And then now being financially literate as someone who understands the financial like capital markets, knowing that Ghana and Greece have the same credit rating, right? Greece defaulted in their national debt for the first time for a European country in 2015, I think it was. But yet they're able to access capital for their economic development at much better interest rates than Ghana, right? And so you see how the international credit markets can stifle developing economies, from similar things like doctors can't get fair interest rates because of low FICO scores. You
Right.
know, so like I'm the Ghanaian of medicine because I couldn't get a good loan to go from Emory to Harvard, the same way Ghana can access capital from the IMF, in the same way Greece can, even though they have the same credit score. So there's a lot that opens your eyes to just the metaphors of life when you see the way other people live, what's happening in other economies, and what's fear and not fear, about the order of the world.
Right. Right. So yeah, that's really what inspires me. And when you go there, you see the true wealth and how people live. Um, it's beyond. It's nothing like living in the U.S. because here it's a cycle. It's like you want a hamster wheel; it never ends,
That's right.
never
Yeah,
stops. It's always go 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 go. You're tired,
that's right.
So that's definitely not what I want for myself in the next 5 years.
Absolutely. So I know you've got your locums gig. You're going to be driving out there pretty soon. I have my next patient coming up in a few minutes as well. We're both practicing doctors. The beauty of this podcast is that we're on this journey together, and we're all seeing patients and scratching our professional itch while educating and influencing the world. In closing, anything you'd want to share with our listeners who are thinking, man, she's had a fantastic career. She's doing it all well. What can you share with them about sticking to it, and inspiring some young girl who's maybe in medical school now or aspiring to medical school, who's looking at you and wanting to follow in your footsteps?
I would say just continue to follow your passions. There are going to be some roadblocks. There's going to be some mountains to climb. We all had to go through that, but don't let that stop you. And at the end of the journey, you can absolutely create the life that you want. It doesn't have to be the life that they hand you. You can create what you want it to be. So just stay encouraged. Don't give up, and you're gonna be here before you know it.
Thank you for tuning in today, guys. And you'll hear more about future episodes coming soon. Looking forward to being on this journey with you through medicine. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.